So what does BFCM mean to you?
When it comes to Black Friday and Cyber Monday, we can't really look at Black Friday as like a 4-day holiday anymore.
As a customer, I want speed. I don't want friction in my transaction. I don't want to have to call my bank at 3 a.m. thinking that the purchase was made and then getting a declined notification.
They want to know everything. Your shoe size, your mother's maiden name, the town you're born in, I don't know. But it just gets really ridiculous. And I don't know why brands do this.
Honestly, I think the most modern approach is to not do that. I mean, look, let's just go right to it, right?
Look at me bringing AI back up again. But, at the same time, like, how can AI agents actually support the human agent as well?
Businesses don't operate efficiently when they have to fuss with a mountain of chargebacks over $1. I mean, ridiculous. Don't do that. Seriously, good practice.
And the very final question before we wrap up, and it's a very, very important one. What do you want from Santa this year? Hi, everyone. So welcome to this fireside chat. We're joined today by Greg from Kustomer with a K. Hey, Greg, do you want to say hello to everyone?
Yep. Hey, everyone. Greg, as Tshili mentioned, with Kustomer with a K. I manage our partnerships here, work directly with the LTVplus team. So yeah, excited to chat about some BFCM strategies today.
Awesome. Looking forward to the insights. And we're also joined by the wonderful Lissa, and Lissa's from Easy Pay Direct.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me as part of this conversation. I'm the payments person, so can chime in about anything related to the payments portion of a giant sales day.
And last but not least, we've got Atiya with us. Atiya, say hello to everyone.
Hi, guys. So nice to have you guys back to another fireside chat. And this time it's not just Tshili and myself. We have these wonderful co-contributors here. So we're super excited for this fireside chat.
Cool. So let's just dive straight into it. So Atiya, as you were talking, what does BFCM mean to you? When you hear the words, BFCM, what does it mean?
BFCM, when I think of BFCM, I think of sales. BFCM means a lot of busy customers. It's basically the Super Bowl of, the sales season. Everyone's excited, everyone's also stressed from a customer support perspective. And we're just focused on customers or sales or both. So that's what it means to me. And that's, what comes to mind.
Do you get excited, Lissa, about BFCM?
In some ways, it's just another day in the life, right? Because every merchant needs to take a card at every moment of the day that they're doing business. But it is certainly for a lot of our merchants, a substantial portion of their annual revenue. So, we do our best to gear up and give them the tools that they need to be successful, et cetera. So it's a specific time of year for sure. But also, the flip side of that coin is I do it every day. So there's both.
Awesome. What about you, Greg? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, to Lissa's point, it's obviously like Black Friday, Cyber Monday can make or break a brand's year, right? So it's obviously a really critical part of the year. It's where a majority of your sales a large percentage of your sales may come. But, that's in a lot of ways table stakes for an e-commerce brand. I think a lot of brands recognize the scope of what Black Friday, Cyber Monday can be. I think what gets me excited, or what I like to think about, is like the opportunity that Black Friday and Cyber Monday gives post sale. It's a huge opportunity to drive a lot of new traffic, new business to your site. But like, how do you get someone that maybe came initially just for that special offer to, drive them to convert into a more loyal customer, right? These are people that aren't just for this one sale, but could be your next advocate. So I think it's not only a critical time for the sales that you're driving, but it's also critical for like the long-term sustainability of your business and trying to drive more of those repeat customers and loyal customers. That's what I think is really exciting about the holiday, outside of just the high sales volume that comes from it.
Awesome. On a personal note, I mean, I love shopping anyway, right? So it's one of my favorite times of the year. And it also reminds me that Christmas is around the corner, and I love Christmas. So for me, it's always an exciting time. But conversely as well, it can be a frustrating time because, like you say, a lot of people have got promotions on, and then there are times when you want to buy something and you're just not sure So, for example, there's some brands that have their own particular sizing, right? And I don't know whether I'm going to fit into that t-shirt or not, right? So I try to get in contact with them, and you get the live chat. We're managing this live chat, but it's like you're eighth in the queue and it's going to take 1 hour or something. What do you see, and how do your brands manage that surge, Greg?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, with the insurgence of AI, that creates an ability to deflect a lot of those, high level questions that may come up in the conversation in terms of like, where's my order, or I need help with my account, or I have a question on this product. And I think while I wouldn't say that AI is a silver bullet, and it's going to solve all your problems, it can be really leveraged as like a secret weapon in terms of how you can be more efficient, especially during a really busy time of year, right? Like you want your agents focused on, the most high priority or high value customers, and having AI that can deflect a lot of those basic questions, but can also keep that human in the loop whenever it does become a more complex situation, I think is really important, right? So that your team doesn't feel burned out and you're offering a really positive experience to the end customer. Because especially during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, there's probably more of an expectation of immediacy than any other time of the year, right? People have so many options. Everyone's throwing out a discount. So your overall experience on your website needs to be on point. I like to use the analogy of like a small town coffee shop. If you go to your local hometown and go into your coffee shop, like the second you walk in that door, the barista knows your name. They know what your order is. You don't even really have to say anything, right? Like you feel valued. And so versus like going to like a Starbucks in Times Square where you're like one of a million people and you feel like one of a million people. And so I think that's really what we are trying to solve with, offering AI to offer that support, but also keeping that human in the loop experience so that when you are working with someone that is, a high value customer, you can make sure that it's getting addressed in an efficient fashion.
Amazing. It's incredible that we actually managed 5 minutes before AI came up. So that's I think that must be a record. But
I know,
I
right?
actually have a point to add to that as well, Tshili.
yeah.
As we're on the topic of AI, I love what Greg said. And that's exactly what we like to tell our customers over at LTV Plus and what we like to prepare our team for as well. We typically like to say automation, it should be a balance where you combine having automation handle things like order status, return requests, FAQ replies. But your humans, your agents, we think they should handle the frustration, which you're going to get a lot of during BFCM. Handling uncertainty, which we all know AI isn't the greatest with, is where we would have our agents respond to those type of questions, as well as money, as Lissa would know as well. People don't get upset for, something taking time where, we would have customer support agents respond, but they get upset where they feel unheard and they feel brushed off. So we like to design our customer support where it's kind of like automation gets you in the door. So customer and having all of these things here gets you to the door. And then the agents is the person that really opens that door. And, that's the recommendation I would have for anyone out there looking to combine AI with their customer support to really build a cohesive and winning team.
Very cool. I like that analogy, by the way. Really cool.
And you need to be careful with it as well too, right? Like you need to have guardrails when it comes to, leveraging AI, especially during a busy time of year. Shall I take a different example than like the sizing question? Like that's a pretty basic one, right? That like doesn't, AI could probably handle, but let's say you're a supplement company and someone asks like a health related question, right? Like you don't want your AI making health recommendations or, saying, things that might be not necessarily true, right? So you need to ensure that like when specific questions come up, which are going to happen during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, that it is routed to someone that can help and give the customer the right answer, and also, ensure that the brand isn't liable for any, hallucination that may happen during that conversation. So I think that's also like critically important in terms of like training the agents and making sure that the agents are armed with as much data as possible. At Customer, we really try to like unify the data inside of our platform so that agents know not just the knowledge base, the promotional schedules, but as much information about the customer as possible before they even talk to them, so that they can ensure that they're able to support them in the best way possible.
So what this all boils down to is kind of like reducing customer frustration, right? And I think one of the things that I definitely find frustrating, especially using a store that I've never used before, is the checkout experience. And it's kind of like you go there and you're like, add to basket, and you press the checkout button, and all of a sudden you've got this big questionnaire. They want to know everything: your shoe size, your mother's maiden name, the town you're born in. I don't know, but it just gets really ridiculous. And I don't know why brands do this. I know you're trying to capture as much data as possible, but Lisa, what do you see with your brands? How are they helping that sort of checkout experience be seamless, I suppose, and as smooth as possible?
Well, that's a giant question with a lot of answers. But seriously, it seems like no two brands do it exactly the same way and have, a linear strategy. In fact, I think the most winning strategy is not linear. But I will say this, since we've just sparked the AI conversation, the future of payments is agentic commerce, right? And we happen to be a leader in that way. So, I'm happy to plug my team here. But people are being able to purchase directly from AI. ChatGPT has gone to market. We have built out our back end to be able to index our merchants right now to sell directly from ChatGPT. And I think that is by far the simplest checkout experience you could have at the moment, because you index your products. Somebody goes into ChatGPT and searches for purple sneakers. Your sneakers come up in the search. They're like, oh, I like these sneakers. They click on the sneakers, and then your checkout page pops up and you click on buy now. Two efforts, and those sneakers have been purchased, right? So, the future of payments is very rapidly evolving and in a very customer friendly way.
Interesting. Do your brand see a lot of returns and a lot of chargebacks during this period as well?
Returns are kind of all over the map. I think it depends on the products that you offer and how you package them. Chargebacks definitely can spike. And so that's, this is a time of year when, you don't probably want to fuss with changing your merchant provider, which frankly, at this moment, I would not recommend. We're so close in time. But, we see a spike in merchants wanting to move around the beginning of the year for that reason, because they're unhappy with the way they're treated through the holiday season, or they can't get support, or they do have spikes in chargebacks and they can't get any relief, or any hand holding from their merchant provider. And so in January, it will become a substantial conversation with merchants. And there are providers who are not aggregators. So like the Stripes, PayPal, Squares of the world, who have one master merchant account and put yours under theirs, right? They're the folks who hold funds and close accounts. And it happens a lot during the holidays because volumes spike. And they don't look at reasons why behaviors change. They just recognize that a behavior has changed in maybe even a positive way. And it triggers a flag, and then they shut people down, right? It happens literally every day. And so, it is always smart to be with somebody who does full underwriting, knows who you are, has good KYC on your industry and your particular business to avoid those pitfalls. So it'll be a big conversation in January.
Yeah, I bet. What would be your number one recommendation for brands to avoid chargebacks? What's the primary cause that you guys see for chargebacks?
Make sure that your return policy is clearly stated on your website, right, and easily accessible. Sometimes merchants have a very clear return policy, but it's hidden. Nobody can find it. That's not helpful. Make sure that you have a clearly presented customer service number, because if somebody were to issue a chargeback, the first thing that's going to be asked of them is, have you reached out to the merchant to try to resolve your challenge? And, and if they say yes, well, then it's on them, to take that step and work it through before it's a chargeback. If they say, I can't find a customer service number, it's not published, that's problematic, right? And so alerts move very quickly to chargebacks in those situations. So merchants can safeguard themselves in some ways. Make sure that you're communicating clearly with your customer what their options are for returns, what the timeline looks like, what the process is, and then, of course, a clearly stated customer service number.
Lissa hit on something that I thought was really key on the return side too, is like making it accessible and, visible. I think the worst thing that you can do, especially from the CX side, is have it a negative returns experience because, returns to me are an opportunity. It's someone that's bought from you. Those are opportunities to, potentially upsell a customer, right? Like you kind of want to look at the refund as like the last resort. There's a variety of reasons why someone might return a product. And so they could really like the brand. It could just be that it didn't fit or it was damaged or, they might just want an exchange, right? It's an opportunity for you to like understand why they're returning it and maybe use it as an exchange or give an incentive to shop again at the store and kind of increase that lifetime value. So you want to make the returns process as easy as possible, as scary as that might be, because that may mean that you're like losing a sale, but it really is, if you do it right, an opportunity for you to actually make them a more loyal customer. Because if you make it an easy experience, they're much more likely to come back and shop with you again. Because if it takes a week or longer to like get a return and get your refund or whatever it might be, the likelihood of me coming back, especially if I'm a first time customer, is very low at this point. So whatever you can do to make it easy and give them their options, it's just a huge opportunity for you to turn them into a loyal customer. So I think like making it accessible, not trying to hide it and try to like avoid the potential refund, I think is really critical if you're looking to keep these as longtime customers instead of just like a one-time customer.
TLC, you're nodding. You agree?
Yeah, I am. I love that we're on the topic of returns actually, because I was going to ask Greg about stress testing and what's more stressful than a return, right?
Yeah.
So, Greg, I'm actually going to pitch it back to you again. What does stress testing your CX systems, look like practically? Because I think a lot of customers don't do that in preparation for BFCM, really stress testing and understanding where there are breaks in the system to ensure a smooth sales season.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, anything you can do to offer like a guided self-service experience with your returns is going to be really helpful, right? Whether that's like having, a really robust returns portal that makes it easy for customers to like enter in their information and process that return or exchange in a matter of minutes, right? Just as we think about like AI and the deflection rate, I think anything you can do to like deflect the amount of outreach that an agent's going to have to handle in terms of processing those returns is going to be critically important. So, if you're using a returns platform like a Loop or an Aftership or an Arvar, right? Like making sure that that's also integrated into your CX platform. So that when the agents are handling those types of issues, there's an easy process for the agent to fulfill that return and making it more of like that immediate experience instead of an agent maybe having to go in the back end and like really try to like figure out how they're going to process that return. Something that's like a couple clicks and they're good to go so that the customer can get their refund or start shopping again or whatever that might be, right? It's all about like handling it as quickly as possible. So really making sure that your stack is working and you test that before the busy periods to ensure that nothing's going to break in that process is going to be really important. And then to your point, like training the team on it, right? Like making sure that the teams understand like what the promotional calendar is, what the return policy is, and how they can navigate that very quickly, especially when they're dealing with a higher volume of customers, I think is really important.
Mhm.
And then the last thing I'll say, and not to go back to AI, but since I already broke the seal on that, not only leveraging AI for the end customer through like a chatbot experience, but how can AI agents actually support the human agent as well? So there's a lot that AI can do to support sifting through the knowledge base, sifting through that customer data to recommend a solution for that specific customer without the agent having to go in and like spend time and try to figure all that stuff out. So the AI can maybe let you know like, hey, this is our like a platinum VIP member customer, like
Yeah.
maybe offer them a 20% discount on top of the return if they're having a bad experience, right? Like the AI can help guide you. They can also recommend how you respond, make sure you're putting it in the brand voice. So, on top of like making sure that your team is trained and tested on all of these policies, like how can we leverage AI to make that even more efficient for the agent so that they're not burned out after a few calls or a few conversations, it keeps them going to handle like a lot of those additional support issues that are going to come up.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that because one of the things, again, that we try to train our agents on is not just knowing the sales codes and the sales promotions, but actually knowing the logic behind the promotions. So, in a case where, we have a client that says this code doesn't work, rather than just applying a new code, having that support from AI as well as training the agents on logic will allow you to be able to say, actually, I see you're picking up some sneakers. You should probably add some socks to maximize on the value of that code. That's how we like to train our agents. So they're actually upselling as well as helping the customer. So if we can use AI to really leverage, allowing the agents to say, maybe you need to suggest this, I think is an amazing combination as well.
Yeah, I think historically, and I'm sure you guys have seen this as well, customer service has been viewed as more of like a reactive experience, right?
Yeah.
Like you really don't want to know anything until that customer reaches out for help, right? And so the way that we think about things is like we actually look at customer service starting at hello. So like before we even know you have an issue, we want to know as much about that customer as possible so that when they do come in, we can offer that experience that you were mentioning, right? Where we can recommend different things or we can offer a more personalized experience based on the type of customer that they are. So I just think that that's like a really important shift. Like, how do we think about things in a more proactive lens than just thinking about, I just need to handle this ticket and get it resolved as quickly as possible without really building any type of like brand loyalty in that process.
BFCM is also a great time to turn those, one-off purchases into lifelong customers, right? So how do you help, say, subscribers or subscription businesses in terms of their CX?
So I think again, like when it comes to Black Friday and Cyber Monday, I think there's a couple of things. One, we can't really look at Black Friday as like a 4-day holiday anymore, right? Like people are doing these promotions in October now, right? They're doing them in December. Like it's now essentially a Q4 holiday. And so when you think about how you want to engage your most loyal customers, everyone's going to be offering a discount. That's table stakes. But what can you do to offer a unique experience, a fun experience, something that's engaging to your most loyal customers that's different than maybe trying to capture that net new customer during the holiday period that makes them want to engage and shop with you over the 15 to 20 other brands that they might also be a loyal customer to, right? So I think thinking outside of the discount, maybe that's some type of exclusive event. Maybe that's sort of an early access experience. Or I've seen brands do like multi-day promotions. So sort of like a 12 days of Christmas where it's like a 12 days of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, right? Where every day is a different type of offer that's exclusive to like your subscription clients or your high level loyalty to your clients, right? So something that's like not just going to keep them engaged for one day, but they're going to be checking out that offer for 12 days, right? So I guess the biggest thing is just like thinking outside of just the discount and what you can do to really make them feel like they're a valued customer and that they're getting something different than the average customer that might be shopping.
Awesome. Lissa, I know that this is a time when a lot of people, either they're being gifted subscriptions or they are subscribing to a brand that they've just discovered themselves. And typically what I've noted, please correct me if I'm wrong because I'm not an expert on these, but what tends to happen is that, the merchant will charge $1 or whatever it is to your card, just to check that the card details are all right. And then it becomes a recurring payment. Sometimes that can raise red flags. How do merchants get around this? Especially because, BFCM and the holiday period is a really important time for them to be able to get people to subscribe to their products or services.
Honestly, I think the most modern approach is to not do that. Look, let's just go right to it, right? Is to not bill $1, but when somebody signs up for your membership or your subscription, to just hold it a couple days until you ship and then bill when you ship, whatever that entire dollar amount is. Because honestly, if you want to circle back to chargebacks, that's a good way to initiate chargebacks, right? And of course, businesses don't operate when they efficiently when they have to fuss with a mountain of chargebacks over $1. I mean, ridiculous.
Hmm.
Don't do that. Seriously, bad practice. And I don't know many merchants, honestly, that do that anymore. I think that they have gotten savvy to how to be more efficient in the payment space and how to get more loyalty from their customers. And not doing that is one of the ways to drive your business in the right direction. So I think just literally sitting on the 2 days or 3 days that it takes your fulfillment people to ship your product and then charge the card or begin the subscription, begin the membership is the smartest way to go.
That's very good advice. We'll definitely take that on board because we offer a failed payment recovery service, right? And one of the things that tends to happen is when we ring someone up and go, hey, by the way, your payment failed, they're like, well, my card's working fine everywhere else. But then you dial back and you see that actually it was that maybe potentially initial transaction that's been declined, and therefore the whole brand has been declined or red flagged. So they can't use that card anymore, that brand sort of thing. And it's a nightmare to unwind all that. So
Sure.
really good advice. Thank you for that.
And Tshili, to take that to the next step, if you are on an aggregator, the Stripes, PayPal, Squares of the world, if you have a spike in chargebacks, that's exactly what is going to cause a fund hold or an account shutdown. Can you imagine having your merchant account shut down during the holiday season? Disaster. I mean, literally like cringeworthy disaster.
Yeah.
So, 2 things there. One is don't do the dollar. The second thing is make sure you are with a provider that understands your business, knows your vertical, knows your industry, expects that your volume will spike, and is prepared to handle that.
So you guys are pretty important in this whole area, I suppose, because you can cause double frustration, both with the merchant and with the customer as well, right?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Atiya, you were about to say something?
Yeah, I do have one question. So, Lissa, as a customer myself, I do notice I don't get the dollar charge, but I do get like a 0 transaction zing on my card when I do certain purchases. Is that okay as compared to actually charging $1? You've seen don't do any of those type of transactions at all.
It tends to be. I'm going to assume that they're charging no dollars at that point. You're just seeing a
Yeah.
transaction. They're probably setting your card up for authorization, which is different than an actual live approval, right? An authorization just literally means this card is good. The transaction is likely to go through for whatever dollar amount, right? A live transaction like $1 is different. That means they are actually taking $1 out of your account or moving $1's worth of money versus just an authorization. So the authorization isn't going to cause a spike in chargebacks, right? It's really when they're moving money is when that matters.
Okay. So in essence, brands can look at possibly having an authorization, which, you're able to confirm that the card that declined is setting up, especially I think with a lot of subscription brands that typically, or even our SaaS clients that typically say, okay, you get a free trial, but you need to enter your credit card in to transact for the following months.
Right.
It may be good practice to do that authorization during that trial period, right?
Yeah, sure. It is smart to authorize the card for your, let's say, $50 membership fee. And then, a couple days later when you're billing them, that you're going to use that authorization to bill that $50 against. So it becomes really the first step of 2 steps in the same transaction.
Okay, perfect.
Interesting. And before we wrap up, I'm wondering what tips would you have on what should businesses and brands be measuring at BFCM to drive long-term success? Anyone?
I can jump in here first.
Okay.
I love KPIs.
Yep.
The numbers to me, I think really tell a story from customer support perspective. So that first time response is definitely going to be showing, are we showing up quickly for our brands? That resolution time is going to tell us, are we actually solving those issues that come up? Your CSAT or your NPS, did we do a good job at those interactions? So those are the things, as well as the payment approval rates, to find out, okay, yes, we had all these sales, but are we leaking revenue as it pertains to those payment approvals? And then lastly, I would say to track the percentage of sales assisted by support, okay? Because your support can be your sales driver during this period and not just, a help desk. I would say if you track those things, you can see that both your customer experience and your revenue story are, in line.
Yeah, those are great. I think you covered a lot of the CX ones that I was gonna bring up. So I think I'll pivot more to the AI side. Look at me bringing AI back up again. But at the same time, like I do think that people really struggle with how to evaluate performance with AI, right? I think people are still figuring it out. Historically, you might look at like the total share of conversations where AI is involved or the first contact resolution rates. But I think the way that we're starting to think more about looking at performance with AI is more around like AI resolution rate. So how many conversations AI was involved in and resolved totally by itself, like true deflection, right? Where for a fact that like that was completely resolved by AI. I think you also want to look at like AI abandonment rate. So how many conversations AI was maybe involved in where a user was abandoned during that process. Historically, people have looked at that as just a resolved conversation, but it isn't necessarily a fully resolved conversation. So really looking at that to kind of fine tune how you want to improve or train your AI in the future is really important. And then lastly is what we call AI support rate. So when I think about this, I think of like how many times an AI agent has sent like a few messages out before transferring it to a human. So we look at this as a really unique metric where you are kind of combining AI driven support with that human in the loop experience, where you were able to resolve something with both the AI and the human agent all together. I think these are really interesting KPIs to start thinking about as you're trying to see how AI fits within your overall CX experience or customer experience. So for some people, AI is going to deflect 80% of conversations. For other companies, it might be 30%, right? And so diving deeper into just the deflection rate, I think can really help you in terms of how well AI or the agentic experience is performing overall.
From a payments perspective, look, I love data too. And I encourage merchants to think about it in 3 segments: pre-sale, transaction numbers, post-transaction numbers. So pre-sale means, did you have a spike in transactions that people tried to make, but it didn't even get into that portion of the process, right? Maybe the card was bad. Maybe they entered the wrong security code. Maybe the address verification didn't match. So did your customers get to the transaction stage, period? That's the first set. The second set is the transaction numbers. Did you hit your revenue targets? Did returns offset that? And so you really didn't come out ahead because you had so many returns. What did your revenue do during that period? And then much to your product, LTVplus folks, on the back end, how many transactions spiked a chargeback or an alert, even an alert first and then a chargeback. And on the beginning of the sale or on the end of the sale, are there products that you could put in place to help you be more efficient and at the end of the day, keep more revenue, right? And so I tend to encourage folks to look at it from all 3 of those portions of the transaction, the payment process.
Yeah, Lissa, before Tshili hops in here, I actually have a post of it on my LinkedIn, the difference between shopping, physically in store and online. And I believe last year I was subject to that as a customer, where I think it was like a late night purchase, when you're up on your phone at 1 a.m. when you're supposed to be asleep. I purchased something. I don't remember what it was, but I know, okay, I went to sleep thinking, yes, I bought this. Next day, I got a declined email from my bank. And I'm like, why was this declined? And that was the end of the sale. I think I called my bank to figure out, and they said, oh, they were unsure about the processor or whatever the case was. But at that point, I think I found another merchant or somewhere else. So that is really something for brands to look at, because as a customer, I want speed. I don't want friction in my transaction. I don't want to have to call my bank, going to sleep at 3 a.m. thinking that, the purchase was made and then getting a decline notification from my bank. So I love, your points that you raised.
Yeah, the entirety of the customer journey is really important to consider every step of the way.
Yeah.
And the very final question before we wrap up, and it's a very, very important one. What do you want from Santa this year? Who wants to go first?
Peace. I want peace.
Peace. I love that.
Peace.
I love that. Peace.
Mm.
Brilliant. Anyone?
Man, what do I want from Santa? Jeez, maybe some baby gear. My son is turning 8 months, and we have a lot of 6-month gear, and we have a lot of 12-month gear, but not a whole lot of 8, 9 months. So I think that would be pretty clutch right now. So he's not like breaking out like the Hulk in his outfits.
They grow so fast, don't they? How about you, Atiya?
Yeah, you do.
Santa, listen, my list is I have a from a Tia list that's very long. What's at the top of my list? I think I love skincare. Anything skincare, you can get my money from that. I will always be happy with skincare, but yeah,
Well, I'm sure there's some
that's probably
skincare brands will be listening. Maybe you may be lucky. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Tshili, what do you want?
I just want rest. I think rest and spending time with family. I think that's that's what I love most about Christmas. It's just because I've got a huge family and I just love everyone getting together and the noise and the buzz around the holiday period. So I'm really excited about it. And
Totally.
thank you so much, everyone. It's been really good chatting with you guys. And I'm going to take away a lot of insights. And I've got my pen here, which has almost run out because there was so much to write down and from the tips that you guys are sharing. Thank you. And before we wrap up, Greg and Lissa, how do people get in contact with you?
Yeah, you can reach out to us at Kustomer.com. So that's customer with a K, Kustomer.com. If you have questions for myself too, always happy to have conversations with people. So you can reach out to me at my email, which is greg.bauman, Bauman, at Kustomer.com.
And our URL is easypaydirect, just like it sounds, .com. And I specifically am LISSAF, like Frank, at easypaydirect.com.
awesome. You can reach out to anyone at LTVplus via sales at LTVplus.com. One of the members of the team will get into contact with you as quickly as possible.
Fantastic. Thank you very much,
Yeah.
guys. Enjoy the rest of your day and take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.